Okay, we're going now.
Alright. Well, I got a freeze because of Gracie. What are you doing?
Okay, go.
Alright, are we good? Alright, how long does it normally take for you to think of, write, revise, and publish a piece?
It took quite a bit of time because you have to really think about the idea. I would say it's at least a year's process for one article. And that's not even a book, that's not a magazine, that's not anything. It's at least 1 year. Last year when I worked with 8th graders on this unit, but we read Monster, I had to come up with the idea in the summertime and plan it all out. And then once we did the idea, I had to actually take notes and write down my thinking. And so I was doing a lot of pre-writing when the kids were doing all that stuff, knowing I wanted to write about this. And then in the spring, I had to do a lot of interviews with kids just to be sure that, and go through that data that I had collected and all those notes that I had collected. And then in the summertime, I spent multiple hours each day writing and revising. Now, there is a time period where you don't do anything because you've submitted an article to the publishers, so you're waiting for their feedback. But I would say that that process, like coming up with ideas all the way, like getting to the green light, takes about a year.
How many pieces have you written?
I have written one published piece, and I have two published pieces, or not, I'm sorry, I shouldn't call them published. I have one published piece that will be published in the middle school journal, and then I have two written pieces that are out there for publishing right now, and I'm waiting to hear back if they are going to get published.
Where do your ideas come from?
I feel that my ideas come from my students because as a teacher, I have to evaluate what can I teach, how can I teach them, what are you interested in, what do you want to talk about, what kind of social issues can I bring in here. In education, you're always trying to write about the next big thing. You're always trying to write about what can benefit kids the most, because that's what's going to get you published.
Do you ever set an amount of words or pages per day?
Not necessarily, but in the program that I'm in right now, when getting a doctorate degree, you have to write something called a dissertation, where you have to write multiple chapters to complete that. Many of those documentations are 100+ pages that you have to write, so a lot of people set page amounts on what they're going to complete. For me, it was about putting down the ideas on paper, regardless of how long or how short it was, and then going from there based on the guidelines that the publisher gave me. For example, you only had, I believe, anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 words, because they went by words, for this article that was just published. That is not as much as you think. That's maybe 10 pages. And I know that sounds like a lot, but when you're trying to communicate several months worth of work into just 10 pages, it's really tough to do. So I think the hardest part as a writer is cutting your work, because you think that it's really good writing, but the editors make you cut all that stuff out.
Any tips of what to do and what not to do? Like in writing?
Yeah. Okay, I'm being interviewed, and here's what you're doing. You're interrupting it. I've asked you to go and blog. Now you're seeing me on tape correcting Garza's behavior because you're making me crazy.
She calling him out.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Any tips of what to do and what not to do? Like in writing,
Sure.
writing style?
Okay. So what you want to do first is that you want to write down as many ideas as possible, regardless of how crappy it might sound. Okay, get down as many ideas as possible, in as many paragraphs, as many thoughts as possible down. Because it's better to have it all down and organized the way that you want it, and then start cutting it back than trying to fit in the guidelines that the publisher wants you. The other thing is that publishers are, I should say, editors are very they're very honest in their feedback, but it's not personal. So they may very well send you the email that says, none of your ideas were very good. Please submit other ideas to go along with this. So it's very discouraging as a writer as you kind of keep getting these rejection letters, right? But if you really believe in the idea and you think that you can actually publish this stuff, then it's worth revising and redoing and submitting again. The other thing that I would suggest is have people help you. Hey, can you read this over for me? Does it sound right? Because a lot of times writers often get too caught up in their own words and they really think that they're so amazing. But come to find out, they're really not as amazing as they think. They just have been working with this piece for way too long that they kind of live the piece, if that makes sense. So having other eyes on your writing definitely helps.
Are there any pieces that you are working on now?
There aren't any pieces that I'm currently working on now, but as you can probably tell with our classroom, we just did the classroom 21st century design. I will probably be writing a piece on that in the spring, so I can get that submitted someplace, because I think other people should learn from that.
When did you start to write professionally?
Let's see. I started to write professionally probably within the last year and a half. This wasn't necessarily something that was required of me until I entered the doctoral program. When you get into that more higher education program, then that's the kind of thing that's expected. If I wanted to go be a university professor, which is what I would like to do eventually, that's kind of the expectation, is to publish and get published.
Alright. Have you ever written for a magazine, and if so, what magazine piece?
Yes, Middle School Journal. So it's a professional development magazine for teachers.
Alright. What topics do you normally write about?
I normally write about classroom practices, but there are other things that I'm interested in too. I'm interested in, why is there so much testing going on? I'm interested in students using technology, and when we don't provide those ideas for technology in the classroom, what that does to you in the future. They're boring. I'm just joking. I mean, when I want to write narratively, and I have to be honest, narrative writing is not a strength of mine. I don't feel like I can write a very good narrative story. I have ideas. It's just really tough for me to put them down on paper, whereas I can talk more factually because I've lived the experience. Like, I can talk to you about what happened in our inquiry unit because I was there, I lived it. Just kind of making up a story. It doesn't, I don't know. Some people have different writing strength. I'm sure you guys can understand that. Maybe you'd rather write narratively than write persuasively or write informatively, whatever,
Alright. When do you find time to write while handling a career and a family with a small growing boy?
I do a lot of my writing over the summer. I take a lot of notes throughout the year, but I do a lot of writing over the summer. I teach summer school, usually here for the first month. So while summer school's happening, I do a lot of writing while I help kids, and then also I think I should own stock in the Panera over here off of 51 and Veterans, because I do a lot of writing at Panera. So I'm not surrounded by a 3-year-old trying to pull on my attention all the time. But I find time. Most of the time it's in the summertime, though. I do a lot of writing in the summer.
Alright. What topics do you think is more interesting to your readers?
I think anything interesting that happens that's very different than traditional classrooms. Our last unit we really spoke to traditional classrooms and how that is really changing. My topics that I write about are ways that we can get teachers to change thinking so that 21st century learning can occur more. So like the inquiry that we're doing right now, or the inquiry that my kids did last year, with that being published, I'm hoping that a teacher can pick that up and say, wow, I can do this. I want to do this in my classroom. And with every publishing, there's always contact information. So those people can then contact me and ask me questions because I actually did what I wrote about. So I'm hoping my purpose for writing isn't necessarily because I just love to write, which I do. but it's hoping to make changes in other classrooms.
Can I show you something?
Do you ever, I'm pretty sure you already answered this, but do you ever write about your career or family life?
More career, less on the family.
Alright. Sometimes do you ever feel like your writing is lacking something? If so, what do you do to change that?
I feel that way all the time because it's all about the confidence that you have in you as a writer. The more confidence you have, the better off it seems to go. But if you don't have confidence on something, it's almost like you've had writer's block. I don't know if anybody's ever had writer's block before. But when you don't know what you're writing about, it's really tough. That's when you put it in front of other people. The more feedback you get on something, the better off it is. The more people's opinion you can create.
Do you ever let your mind flow and then pick out ideas based on that writing piece?
Mm-hmm. No idea is a bad idea. Anytime that you can write it down or brainstorm it or voice it, the better off it is, because out of those really bad ideas could very well bring something that you would want to write about.
Do you ever write about the loss of a loved one?
No, I haven't yet. But I think actions always spur reactions, so maybe if I had something like if I lost somebody, now that makes me want to work harder to do this because I think of them, or something along those lines. I haven't felt that yet, but it could very well be a possibility.
Is there anyone that helps you when you are writing a piece?
Mm-hmm. I have several university professors that help me when we go forward and write. Typically you have authors and then you have second authors. So sometimes the university professors will be a second author to you, and what that basically means is that they can just give you feedback and help you go through and edit to make sure that it's publishing quality. They don't really deal much with the content of the work. They just help you shape it up a little bit.
All right. That's all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.